What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another great edition of No Love Philly, the podcast dedicated to artists, activists, musicians, comedians, breweries, basically anybody in and around the city of Philadelphia who make this place as awesome as it is. Today we get a touring band, man. Not only a touring band, a very well-known band, the amazing, the one and only Anti-Flag. We got to catch up with Chris No.2 at the Electric Factory on the day of their album release for American Fall. This is the day that the album came out. They were here performing in Philly. We got to speak to Chris. We talked about what he's feeling on that day, that day of the record release, like what's going on in his mind, his favorite revolution. We talk about the drug war. We talk about playing Philly house shows. We even get a crazy ass Philly story. And I got to tell you, man, after talking with Chris and seeing them perform live, like, I'm a fan, dude. Like, I'm really legit a fan. It was cool to see them. I love the way that their songs range. Some songs can be like super hardcore. Some songs can be kind of ska. Some kinds are kind of pop punk. And I just love it, man. I loved getting to speak with him. We talked about the Wharf Rats, and which is a side piece that he's doing with POS. But yeah, man. The band is going to be on tour all throughout January and February. They're mostly West Coast dates, some Texas dates, but then they'll be back in Millvale, PA on February 9th and New York on February 11th. But dude, make sure that you pick up their new album, American Fall. For now, you can check out these awesome show dates while we wait for Anti-Flag to come back this way. You have Dying Fetus going down on November 25th at the Theater of Living Arts. They're on tour with Hatebreed, Twitching Tongues, and Code Orange. They are a legendary grindcore band from fucking Maryland. They've got a new album, Wrong One to Fuck With. It's actually pretty dope. I've checked it out. It debuted at number 2 on Hard Music, number 2 on Heat Seekers chart, number 13 on Rock, number 39 on Current Albums, number 53 on Current Digital, number 180 on Top 200 Billboard charts. It's out now via Relapse Records. You can check them out live November 25th. There's really no reason to miss that show. I mean, it is the Saturday after Thanksgiving, dude. Like, really, what could you possibly be doing? Make sure to some more shows. I was going to talk about some other shows that were going on in Philly. Today is the 10th, so it's actually great. How Have You Been Fest is kicking off now. You have some stuff going on. The Philadelphia Wing Festival. I can't believe I'm going to miss that. Flamingo Chicks, the Mad Doctors, S.A. Frost going down Saturday, November 18th at Tralfamador. You've got St. Vincent Fear, the Future Tour, going down Tuesday, November 28th at Electric Factory. You've got Black Christmas Craft Bazaar, Sunday, December 3rd at Tattoo Moms. You've got December 3rd, the He's Hayfest at Bar 2300. You've got Earthquake performing live at Punchline Philly on December 8th. You've got the Punk Rock Flea Market going down December 16th. Nightmare Before Christmas Dance going down December 23rd at the Barbary. Oh, yeah. Saul's putting on a good show, man. I think he's doing something to promote Sarava's new album. So that's going down. Let me see what I got on that one. Yeah, man, I just saw that. And I messed it up. Yeah, but it is that. Be on the lookout for that, man. Sal's doing a great job. And then you got the Philly Zine Fest going down the 12th, probably about when this is going on. This will be up and out. The 16th, Caravella, Tough Guy, Soda, going down at Kung Fu Necktie. It looks like Curtis Cooper record release, January 19th, Johnny Brenda's. You've got the Philly Gets Alternative, December 2nd. At Everybody Hits Philadelphia. And man, so that's what I was going to get. Saul Dratman, the Center City Invasion, March 22nd at Milk Boy. It's going to be a 3-month show and marketing campaign to promote Saravo's new release coming out in March, and they're kicking it off at Milk Boy on January 20th at the Chestnut Street. And man, that's going down. But for now, I will go ahead and get started with our interview with Chris from Anti-Flag. Make sure you like their Facebook page, their Instagram, check out their videos on YouTube, and make sure to buy their newest album, American Fall. Here they are, buddy. Have a great one. And we are fucking... What do we say here? Looks like we are golden, brother.
All right.
Man, I am here with Chris No.2.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
From
sir.
Anti-Flag.
Yep.
Brother, how are you today?
Good, man. It's our record release day, so we are a little frazzled. Not much sleep the night before. Whenever you're about to put something you spent a year creating out into the world for folks to judge, but feeling good. We had a really great in-store at Creep Records here in Philadelphia. Lots of really kind folks were there. I think the show tonight's going to be really great here at Electric Factory. So this is a great town for us to be releasing our record in. There's a lot of ties to democracy and a lot of ties to movements of independence here in Philadelphia. So it's a good place for us.
This is a great place to kind of release this album, right?
Yeah.
So American Fall, man, it has been a year in the making. It releases today. I want to know what's going through your head, your mind right now. What's been racing through your head all day? What have you been thinking? What have been your feelings? What have been your emotions?
Well, on some level, we're blessed with perspective because this is our 10th record. It's not new to us. We understand that the pressures that are imposed on it a lot of times are just self-imposed by us. So we have to do our best not to be short-sighted, not to think of a record as an immediacy thing where it lasts for a day and then we move on. These songs are songs that we're going to be playing for years. So I think that what's most important is that people understand that the record has a theme and an agenda and an overarching message of solidarity to those in transgender communities, people of color, immigrants, refugees, those that have been most targeted and scapegoated over the last year and a half with the election and the victory of Donald Trump.
Yeah, so there is that. So, and you'll probably have to hold that mic just a little bit closer, just so you know.
Cool.
So, my question to you is, you guys have definitely created a lot of great protest music. You've definitely been an ally, and I think there's a lot of question, like what is the appropriate way, or what is a good way that people can be allies to the demographics you just mentioned?
Yeah. Well, I think that the first and foremost is to stand up and raise your hand and be counted as an ally. I think that there's this idea that using art as a vehicle to comment on the politic of the day is sometimes futile, and that for example, we'll do this show tonight. Predominantly white males will be in the audience. That's not necessarily the chapters of folks that we're mentioning or speaking solidarity to with the songs. However, it's a great place to take a head count of who's an ally to those folks and arm them with the capabilities to move on. So today we'll have this organization out with us that does literature. So when
met him outside.
Yeah,
very cool dude.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that when you go to the merch booth, you don't just get a T-shirt. You have the option to extrapolate on some of the discussions that we're having. This is not an anti-flag tour. This is a Flag Molly tour, so we're kind of limited in our scope of what we can bring to the table. But hopefully some people come to this show, and then the next time they'll see that we have Amnesty International with us or Greenpeace with us or local organizations that are fighting sexual abuse or emotional abuse that comes with that. So I think that there's always a belief that the show and the songs and the records are this kind of like gateway drug to activism, and I'm hopeful that when people get introduced to the scene, they can then dig deeper on their own and find new ways to extrapolate on that.
So I think it's so dope that you actually did link up with this publisher, and the name of that, let's see, I had a sticker and I was hoping I was going to pull it out.
PM Press.
Yeah, PM Press. So how did you end up linking up with him? Because the dude's from the Bay Area. When I talked to him, he's like, I'm from the Bay Area. And so how did you link up with him to make that happen tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's just you make a lot of friends through punk rock. I mean, that's the beauty of this scene, especially in the information age that we're in now. It's very easy to connect. So I couldn't even tell you. I'm sure we just met him in passing, and he was a really kind person, and it made sense. He told us he was in Philly today, and we said, come to the show and do it.
That's so awesome that you open up doors for people like that, though. You know what I mean? You're like, I barely know the dude, but Homeboy's got something with it, and I want to bring it on to it.
And when you've been in a band for almost 25 years, your bullshit detector gets pretty good, and you can figure out who's doing things for the right reasons and who is like actually living and breathing activism, and he's one of those folks. And it's just, and two, like I said, we have a lot of people that are within organizations, and they'll kind of account for somebody's capabilities, and that we meet a lot of people that way. Amnesty International is tremendous at that. Like, every time they send us volunteers, these are folks we've never met before, and they're some of the kindest, most empathetic people ever. So I think that just being around this, you tend to find good people, and I think it's a byproduct of a scene that's predicated upon empathy.
Awesome, man. So you guys did play a show at Creep Records today. Is that something that you guys are doing across this tour stint? Like, are you stopping by record stores and doing them? Or how did Philly get selected for that?
Yeah, so this is the third one we've done.
You'll have to hold it closer.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, this is the third one we've done. We did one in Los Angeles, and we did one yesterday in Jersey. And really, we're just looking for cool places. It's less about the city. It's more about the record store and whether or not they have a community built around them that we can kind of support. So we did Vintage Vinyl in Jersey, which is like a long-standing record store. We have a long relationship with Creep Records here in Philadelphia. We've known those folks since they opened it. So I think it's way more about like saying, hey, this is our 10th record. We're entering 25 years as a band. How do we reconnect with these people who have been doing this just as long, who care just as much about music and art as we do? And the in-stores are just a part of that.
All right, so the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and I wanted to talk to you specifically about, was the Wharf Rats.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan of POS.
Okay.
And so I was wondering, the way that I understand it is that you guys linked up during Warped Tour.
Yeah.
And then that's how that came along.
So those two songs I had written, and I even kicked one of them around as an Anti-Flag song for a bit, and it just, it's being such a short hardcore song, it didn't really fit. But I've always wanted to play music in a band with Wade McNeil, who's in Alexis on Fire, and we had a friend who played drums in a band. Actually, the singer of that band is from Philadelphia, and he'll be here today. They were called the AKAs. And so we had a drummer, we had a bass player, we had a guitar player, and we needed someone to sing. And I had remembered that Steph had been in this hardcore band, Louder Than Bombs, and I was like, well, maybe he'll want to do it. Let's reach out to him, and gave him the first song, which had lyrics and was pretty much done. And then the second song just had music, and he sat down and he wrote all the lyrics to the second song right there. And they had this like little tour bus that had a studio built into it. It was the John Lennon songwriting experience bus. So poor John is turning in his grave whenever these four shitty kids are in there making this hardcore record. But we made an awesome 7-inch, and the friends at No Sleep Records put it out, and we only had the two songs. But we've kicked around literally 4 or 5 times. Like once a year, a text message will go like, yo, we need to do another 7-inch.
Yeah,
but
dude.
It doesn't get any further than that. So I've got some riffs. Maybe we'll do it.
I think it would be an awesome thing.
Yeah.
I know that POS is from Minnesota. Is that correct?
Minneapolis.
Yeah, Minneapolis. So kind of difficult to like.
Yeah, but now with the internet, you can just throw it around. Yeah, it's so easy.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So
one more thing I want to say about Creep Records is that we teamed up with them so that everyone who bought a record, $2 of that record went to this place called The Attic, which is an LGBTQ kind of refuge that helps folks that are going through some of the traumas that are involved with living in 2017 and being a person who is a marginalized member of society. So I think that that's a really cool thing. The other two we did canned food drives at. So there's always some other element of activism. It's not just like, please buy our record. We're trying to do something.
Absolutely, yeah. So let me ask you this. You guys are obviously huge, a very huge, like, revolutionary band, kind of in a way. You speak a lot about politics. I'm curious to know what your favorite revolution of all time is.
Wow, that's really interesting. I mean, I feel like the things that we've been closest to and seen, the fervor of the anti-war movement in 2003 was really powerful. The Occupy Wall Street movement, people reflect back on both of those things as failures. They moved the tents out of the square in New York City. They still invaded Iraq. How can we call these things successes if their end goal wasn't what they set out to be? And for me, I feel like we're not paying attention to history if we try to rely or try to relate things to being just success and just failure, because that's not how change happens. Change happens incrementally. I don't think without the anti-war movement of 2003, you'd have the Occupy Wall Street movement of 2008. I think that there's an intersectionality of all of those groups that they found. The Occupy Wall Street movement introduced a completely new piece of language into the dialogue. This idea of the 1%. You heard Bernie Sanders talk about it the entire campaign. Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump were forced to talk about it because it became such a prominent thing in our society's language. That doesn't exist without Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street doesn't exist without 1 million people in the streets of London who were introduced to protest, grew up with protest, wanted to focus that anger somewhere else, and found a new way to do it with Occupy. The same goes across Berlin. We had 350,000 people in the streets of Pittsburgh. In Philadelphia, 500,000 people were in the streets in 2003 to oppose the war. I think that these ideas of revolution coming as on this day the world was this way and on the next it was different. That's not how the paradigm shifts specifically now at this era in time. So we've got to hang our hats on any time we can grow or push the social conscious of the globe or of the world or of the city that we're in. Those things are the real victories for me, and something that we as a band always try to look to whenever we feel overwhelmed or feel like there are more losses than there are successes. I don't necessarily aim for any of this shit to change in my lifetime. The goal isn't to have our picture in the dictionary next to the word revolution. The goal is for people to be free to be themselves, however that has to happen, however long that has to happen.
That's awesome, man. So the other thing that I wanted to kind of touch on, and I know that you guys are straight edge, and there's a huge opioid epidemic going on right now. I mean, all across the country.
Yeah.
You yourself, I mean, your sister, unfortunately, was murdered in an unfortunate over a very small amount of drugs. My question to you is: where do you stand on the issue of drugs today? Do you think that it should be decriminalized? Should it be legalized? What's your thoughts on it?
Well, small clarification: 2 of us do drink. Justin and I do drink.
Okay.
As we've gotten a little bit older, we've had a little bit more faith in ourselves to be able to tour and drink and stuff like that. So, but that being said, I think that we've never had a drink before the set. We've never done any like this. There's a specific goal or like I said, an overarching theme to the shows that we play, the records that we make, and we want to be focused and clear-minded when that's happening. I do believe that the war on drugs is bullshit. I do believe that that societies that legalize drugs have better ways of dealing with people that become addicted to substances and the mental health issues that come along with that, the physical health issues that come along with that. I think that it is a construct of capitalism that doesn't allow people to break free from cycles of poverty, cycles of drug abuse. And so, again, it's a further extrapolation of the powerful maintaining their power and the status quo maintaining the status quo, keeping the prisons filled, keeping the companies that are poisoning people via their food, via cigarettes, via alcohol, keeping those companies profitable and not allowing anything to jeopardize that profitization of humanity's downfall or some form of disaster capitalism off of human life. So yeah, I mean, whenever it comes to drug law, whenever it comes to interaction with drugs, I am on the side of legalizing drugs and creating clinics to help people clean up for themselves. And you know, each band member might give a different answer to that and a different perspective, but the places that we've toured that have had decriminalization, I've always found there to be less addiction, to be less poverty because of that addiction. And I would like to see that experiment, or at least some form of it, happen here.
It seems like such a it's odd to say this, but such a brave stance to kind of take, like, because they're mainstream wise, it's not exactly a popular opinion.
No,
to have, you know
definitely
what I mean?
not.
And,
definitely not. It's based out of fear, though. People are operating out of fear, and there's this assumption that once a substance is decriminalized, that everyone just does it, and that has turned out to be not the case. I mean, there are endless studies of when they decriminalize marijuana that while the usage goes up, the amount of arrests or fatalities or anything around it, that goes way down, because people have a place to do it that's safer and more responsible and things like that. And I think the same goes for a lot of Scandinavian countries that have methadone clinics and things like that. You see that when people are doing safer drugs and not doing them on the streets and not doing them out of fear, that the robberies go down, the deaths from it go way down, and those are positive statistics to me. And I want to shift our world towards that than I do want to worry about whether or not someone is made uncomfortable, whether or not a substance is legal or not.
Yeah, recently I saw, and I don't know where I saw it, but one of these PA mayors, the council was like, hey, you know, we want to decriminalize marijuana. This guy lost his shit. The mayor was like losing his mind about it, you know, so it's
unreal.
It is. So look, I know that you know, obviously you guys are from Pittsburgh, very close to Philly. You've played Philly a whole bunch of times. My question to you is, do you have, this is a little segment that I do called Crazy Ass Philly Stories. And I'm wondering if you have a crazy ass Philly story that you could share.
Philly story. Man, that's hard to think about off the top of my head. I wish I would have had a moment to prep.
Here, I can ask you. I can ask you another question while
I think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm trying to think if I do have a crazy ass Philly story. I think that the craziest Philly story probably has to do with the church. We played the basement of the Unitarian Church in 2003. We did a record release show there with Paint It Black, who are a Philadelphia band. And that was just one of the most insane shows we've ever played here. Sweat was dripping from the ceiling. Bodies were smashed into that building. And I'm surprised we made it out alive. It was a very intense rock and roll experience for sure.
That's awesome, man. That's also led me to my one of my other questions. That was so you did. Hold on, I'm looking for it right here. Oh yeah, This Is the End.
Yeah.
That video looked like a basement show.
Yeah.
And so I did you guys ever play like the house show scene here in Philly?
Yeah. What was the name of the house that just was shut down? Oh gosh, it was a really amazing place. I played there with the other band I play in called White Wives. Golden Tea House.
Oh yeah, Golden Tea
It
House.
was a beautiful place. And Anti-Flag has played a lot of houses and basements in South Philly and things like that through the years. So Philadelphia is a very punk rock town, comparable to Pittsburgh. People that live the scene live and breathe it for sure. And I think that it's also and this is one of the things that, you know, if we want to talk about like cross-state rivalries, and one of the things that we really love about Philadelphia that we don't necessarily have in Pittsburgh is that there is certainly a pride in Philadelphia music and art. And I see it with my friends that live here, that when they come up through the scene and they do well, the city really gets behind them and really supports them. Whereas in Pittsburgh, it's just like, yeah, who the hell are you? You know, like, yeah, there's not really this like love for, especially in the alternative music scene, maybe more in the mainstream music scene, but here, like, you could be a punk rock band and, like a band like the Menzingers, who have so much love for them in Philadelphia, and that's just a really amazing thing to see. Tiger's Jaw, it's the same thing. I'm hopeful that in time we can build our city and our scene up like that in Pittsburgh as well.
That's awesome, man. Chris, is there anything else that you would like to add? Anything else?
No, man, this was great. Thanks for the interview, and if you have a moment to check out American Fall, it's everywhere on the internet and hopefully in your local record store.
American Fall, people get it today, man. It's gonna be a rockin' album. I'm gonna kick myself if I don't ask this last question.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Dude, I noticed that when in all, like, the discography of Anti-Flag, you are, like, when you're doing the singing, man, you're all over the place in the sense that one song's gonna be like this hardcore fucking punk song, another one is gonna take like a ska tone, another one's gonna be poppy, right? How do you decide that? When do you make that? Where does that come from? And, like,
I think that again, when you've made 10 records, you get the luxury of perspective, and you get to say, well, I want to do what serves the song, not necessarily what serves a theme or someone classifying things by genre. I love all types of music. I grew up on all types of music, and I still, whether it's hip hop or punk rock music or folk music or some of the things you mentioned, hardcore, ska, like all of those things, I've found redeeming qualities. As long as the song is about caring about more than just yourself, it has a place to be an Anti-Flag song. It doesn't matter the sonics of it. We're an agenda-focused band, much less sonics.
Excellent, man. American Fall out now. Check it out. Enjoy it. Brother, thank you so much for taking out time to speak to us. Really do appreciate it. All right? Have a great one, man.